Hey, what's up guys, Ryan here from Extreme Terrain, and today I'm here with the TerraFlex 1.5-inch spacer leveling kit fitting your 2007 to 2018 Jeep Wrangler JK. Now this is going to be for those of you JK owners that are just looking to gain some additional ground clearance and of course level out that stance. Now spacer lift kits are great because they're a very affordable option. You don't have to shell out all of that money for a full-blown lift kit. Maybe you're just looking for some additional ground clearance and level out that stance, or if you just want something for now, that way you can save up some money for that badass lift kit later on down the road. Now this spacer lift kit is pretty unique when compared to other options, and one of the nice things that I like about it is that it gives you options. So this kit is going to come with a 1-inch spacer for the rear, and it's going to come with two 1-inch spacers for the front. So your Jeep is going to have that factory rake from the factory, and that's going to give it that nose down look. Now some of you are a fan of that, you want to retain that, and if you do want to retain that, then you just put one spacer up front and that spacer in the rear, and that's just going to raise the whole vehicle 1 inch. If you want to level out that stance, you stack both of those spacers on the front like we did, and that's going to give you 2 inches in the front. It's going to help level it out, get rid of that factory rake, and of course the whole entire time you are gaining some ground clearance. Now, this kit is coming in right around $180, which I think is pretty reasonable considering what you're getting. Some of those other spacer lift kits out there, they're just going to come with the spacers. They're going to cost right around the same amount, and TerraFlex even throws in some front end sway bar end links. Now these sway bar end links are a heavy duty design. They're going to have a Heim joint at one end, and that Heim joint is even greasable, allowing you to grease that thing and maintain it properly. Now these spacers are going to install right on top of your factory springs, and that's one of the nice things that I like. Along with being very affordable, you're going to maintain that ride quality. You're not really going to change it up with brand new springs and shocks, and that's one of the nice things that I like about this kit. These are going to attach directly on top of the springs. You're going to utilize those factory springs and those factory shocks, and that's going to maintain that factory ride quality. Now TerraFlex makes these spacers from a heavy-duty polyurethane, so they're going to stand up over the test of time. They're not really going to fade, crack, break down over time. This kit is relatively easy to install. There's not really many parts that we need to swap out. This is a pretty basic kit because it's just adding spacers in those front end sway bar end links. Of course, you need to take apart the whole entire suspension, so that is going to add a little more work to the whole complete system. But overall, it's a pretty basic kit. Now, adding this leveling kit to your Wrangler, you're going to be able to fit a little bit larger of a tire. You'll be able to run up to a 33-inch tire. If you're using those factory wheels, depending on the width of the tire, you want to add a little bit of a spacer, about a 1.5 inch. But if you're using aftermarket wheels, you want a back spacing of at least 4.5 inches. So like I said, this is a pretty easy kit to install. This just is going to include spacers and those front end sway bar links. As far as insulation, I'm going to give it about a 2 out of 3 wrenches on the difficulty meter. Expect to get this done in about 4 hours, depending on how rusty your hardware is, and you can do all this just using basic hand tools. Now with that being said, let's hop into our install. Tools we use for this install: 3/8 drive impact, 1/2 inch drive impact, 3/8 drive ratchet, dead blow hammer, trim panel removal tool, 21mm socket, 19mm socket, 18mm socket, 10mm socket, pliers, socket extension, 1/4 inch Allen, 19mm wrench, 18, 17, 16, 3/8 wrench, rust busting lubricant, and if you decide to go that route, a ratchet strap. All right guys, so the first thing you're going to do after you get your Jeep up in the air, and you support your axle with pole jacks. So if you're doing this on the ground, you'll need a set of jack stands and a floor jack. We got our axle supported, so we're going to take out our track bar bolt. This is going to be that 21mm bolt right here on the axle side. And you guys can disconnect this with the vehicle on the ground if you want to. Next, we're going to work on getting our sway bar end links. We're going to take these front ones completely off. It would be a good idea just to spray this stuff just a little bit since it's old, rusty. So for the top, we're going to use a 19mm wrench. You want to wiggle that on the back side. And then for the nut, we're going to use an 18mm socket. So for the bottom, you're going to need an 18mm wrench and a socket. All right, and then after you do that, you can do the same thing on the other side to get the other one off. So next we're going to work on getting these shocks out. Not only do we need to get those out to lower the axle down, but we have a brake line bracket back here right behind it that we need to take off. So we're going to use an 18mm socket and a wrench on this lower bolt to get this off. Save that hardware. All right, so while we're here, we're going to grab a 10mm. We're going to take this bolt out on the side of this bracket. Once we get that out, we're just going to pull out that one side, and you can just free up that bracket. So after you get the bottom of the shock out and the bracket, you can do the same thing on the other side. Now before we lower the axle down, we have one more thing that we need to get out. We have to get this axle tube vent hose. All you have to do is just grab onto that, pull it towards the back of the Jeep. That's gonna pop off. All right, so next we're gonna lower our axle down. I'm gonna raise the Jeep up on the lift. So to get the springs out, just push it up and off of the bottom. And I'm gonna swing that sway bar out of your way. And we're just gonna wiggle it off of the upper spring perch and that bump stop. Now after you get the spring out, we're gonna pull out the spring isolator. This is gonna be this little donut at the top here. So you just wanna free that up, pull that down. That way we can stack this on top of the spacers that we're gonna shove up in there. All right guys, so now that we have the front torn apart, what we're gonna do, we're gonna start putting it back together. Now you're gonna have these two individual spacers. They're gonna look like this. You just wanna stack them on top of each other. What we're gonna do is slide them up over the bump stop, and you're gonna take that rubber isolator, that factory one that we pulled out, slide that up, make that nice and tight. Now we're gonna reinstall the spring. So you may need to drop your axle just a little bit more to get this in. I'm actually gonna come around the front, push this sway bar up in the air to get it out of my way. Make sure you put the small end at the top. Get it over there. Now you're gonna have a spring stop right here, so you wanna just clock this spring, make sure that it stops on that. After that, you can raise the axle up just a little bit and just put tension on the spring. Then we wanna do the same thing on the other side. Once you got both springs in and the spacers, we're gonna lower it back down, then we'll start putting everything back together. All right guys, so before we put the shocks back in, what we're gonna do, we're gonna put this brake line bracket on because we need to get it in before we get the bottom of the shocks on. So you're gonna have to poke the one end back into the slot in the bracket. So once you get that bracket in, we're just gonna put that factory bolt back in. So get that started, we'll take a 10mm socket, we'll tighten it up. Next thing we're gonna do, we're gonna assemble the sway bar end links that we get for the front. So you're gonna have this sleeve that comes in the hardware package. All we have to do is press it in there. So what you wanna do is just take some grease, put it inside of this hole right there. We're gonna go over to our vise, and what we're gonna do is we're just gonna clamp this baby down and then squeeze it in there. So ever so gently, just want to press it in there. And then while we have it, we're going to install the grease fitting. So what we're going to do, we're just going to take these, we just want to thread them in. All right, once you get it started, we'll take a 3/8 inch wrench and we'll just twist that all the way around until we tighten it up. Now, if it's fighting you a lot, either you have it cross-threaded or it's good enough. So that didn't go all the way in, but it's pretty tight. I don't want to break it off in there, so we're going to leave it at that. We'll take this one out, and we'll do the same thing to the other one. So open that vise back up, get that sleeve, start it in there, and we'll just make them go inside of each other. All right, so next thing we're gonna do, we're gonna install the brand new sway bar end links. So you're gonna have this little fitting, just like the factory one. This little stud is gonna go up top. So once you get that stud through there, we'll put on the washer that they give us. Then we'll put that nylock nut on there. And then we'll need a 19mm socket to tighten this nut up. Now, if you can't get this stud to not spin and stay still, you can actually put a 1/4 inch Allen key in the end of this stud and hold it still. Just use a 19mm wrench to tighten that up. Now for the bottom, we're gonna use that factory bolt. So once again, factory bolt's gonna go through the outside towards the inside, put that factory nut back on, and then we'll need two 18mm to tighten it back up. All right, guys, so we're running into one issue. We got the spacers in, we got the coil springs back in, but when we go to push the axle up, it's actually pushing the Jeep up in the air. We can't get the shocks connected. So ideally what we want to do, we want to put the wheels and tires back on. We want to set the vehicle on the ground. That way we can use the weight of the Jeep to line up those shocks, compress the springs just a little bit more. That way we can get the shock bolts in. So since we're up on the lift, the next thing I'm going to have to do, I'm going to have to reconnect the track bar. That way it'll hold everything together, because once I take the pole jacks out, of course that axle is just going to want to drop back down, and we're going to rip all kinds of lines. Now you guys doing it at home, if you are using jack stands on a floor jack, you're already going to have that floor jack underneath of the axle. So what you can do is just lift it up, put the wheels and tires back on, pull the jack stands, set the whole thing on the ground, and that way it's going to compress those springs. You can get those bolts back in. So what I'm going to do right now, I'm going to take this ratchet strap and I'm just going to shift the axle over to the side. That way I can get that factory bolt back in, and that way hopefully it's going to hold everything back together for when we set it on the ground. And then after that, we're going to move back to the rear. We're going to get that fully assembled, and then we'll put the whole Jeep back on the ground and we'll get some things buttoned up. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take this ratchet strap. I'm actually going to hook it around the end of our axle just like that. Then I'm going to come over here to the frame and I'm going to hook it onto the frame. One thing that you don't want to do is you don't want to get in the way of the track bar and mess that up when we're trying to get that bolt back in. We don't want it to shift out of the way or anything. So I got it in a pretty good spot. All we're going to do is just put a little tension on this, and it's just going to pull the axle to the side. So you can see that it's working its way to the side. Once we get that lined up, we can get that bolt back in. All right, that looks like it. So I'm going to go grab the bolt, and then we'll get it back in. So we get that bolt all the way through. Now remember, there's a flag nut on the back side. So all you want to do, just put that on the back side, and then we want to turn this bolt by hand. That way we don't cross anything. All right, so we got that started. I'm just going to tighten it up a little bit, but you want to torque it when it's on the ground. That way this bushing is in a relaxed state. So we'll just take that 21, we'll tighten it up a little bit. And then we'll let go of our ratchet strap. Hold everything in place. One thing that we want to make sure doesn't happen is that we don't stretch these brake lines too far. All right, so we're here at the back. First thing we're going to do, we're going to support our axle with pole jacks. Just like the front. Put a little bit of tension on these, and we're going to take out that track bar bolt. All right, so we're going to disconnect the track bar where it meets the axle right here on the driver's side. Same thing, 21 millimeter socket. We'll take that bolt off, and there is a flag nut on the back side, so you don't need a tool. The axle is going to shift a little bit if you have it up in the air. And like I said, this is something that you can do on the ground before you actually get the Jeep up in the air. Next, we're going to work on getting our sway bar end links off. So once again, spray all the rusty stuff with rust unlocking power spray. Then we're going to do the top, same thing as the fronts. We're going to use a 19 millimeter wrench. Get that on that flange right there, and then we'll use an 18 millimeter socket to get the nut off. After you get that nut off, we're just going to pull that out, set it to the side. Then you can do the same thing on the other side. Now since these are staying on, we're going to be reusing the same ones when we put this back together. We only have to take it off on one side, so I'm just going to do the top because the bottom one is hidden by the shock. It's a little harder to do. After that, we're going to pull our axle vent tube off. Same thing as the front. Just want to pry up on that. It'll pull right off. So now we're going to come to the outside of the Jeep in the wheel well. We're going to have to take this 10 millimeter bolt out of here for the brake line. We're also going to have to disconnect this ABS where it pushes into the frame so we can get some length out of there so we can lower the axle. So 10 millimeter socket for that. We'll take that bolt out. We'll let that swing. If you want to, you put that bolt back in so you don't lose it. Now for the ABS, you can just take a flathead screwdriver, or if you have any sort of prying tool or trim panel removal tool, we're just going to take these two little Christmas tree plugs out of there. That's going to give us plenty of length to lower this down. But then you can go over the other side and do that same exact thing. So next we're going to disconnect the shocks at the bottom where they meet the axle. So you need an 18mm wrench for one side, 18mm socket, and of course you want to spray these threads with some WD-40 or PB Blaster. Push it up a little bit until it frees up that bolt. I'm going to pull that bolt out, and you want to keep that because we're going to put it back in. Ooh, go over to the other side, do that same thing. Next thing we're going to do, we're going to drop the axle, lower it down, that way we can get our springs out. So the spacers for the rear are going to be these funky looking ones. They actually have a bump stop built into the bottom, which is pretty cool. But these are going to sit up in there, and you're actually going to have this little top, and that's actually going to pop into that. So what you can do is take a hammer. All right, so I can't get these in by smacking them with a dead blow hammer, so there's a couple ways you can do this. You can actually put a block of wood in here in between this mount on the axle and this, and just use the axle to push it in. But what I'm gonna do, I'm actually just gonna install it on top of the spring. We're gonna fit it up in there, and we'll use the axle to press it in. So you just wanna click that into your isolator like that, and we're gonna feed this back up through. Probably have to drop the axle a little bit more. All right, so now that we got this in, I'm just gonna raise the axle up, and that, push that guy in. So next we're gonna go over to the other side. Remember, you wanna slide that isolator on there. So I'm gonna show you a little bit of a different way to get this side installed. If you have an old piece of exhaust pipe or anything to go around the top, just like that, I got a 2x4 in between the pipe and our axle mount. All you wanna do is just center that real good. We're just gonna press up on it, and hopefully it's gonna pop it in place for us. All right, so that's in. Go ahead and pull this back down. Get that block of wood out, get that exhaust pipe in there. You can see that that's in, so we'll go ahead and put the spring in. Remember, big coil up top. So big coil up top. Press it down over the bottom. We'll raise that back up. Put a little bit of tension on that spring, and then we can start reassembling the vehicle. So after that, we're gonna compress the springs a little bit, raise the axle up. We're gonna put that factory bolt back in. Put the nut back on, and then we're gonna need an 18mm socket and an 18mm wrench to tighten it back up. So on the back, it doesn't look like we have that issue. We are able to actually push the axle all the way back up, get these shock holes to line back up. So we're actually gonna put these shocks back in. That way we can trap those springs, feel a little more safe with it on the lift, and then we'll start putting everything else back together. So same thing, we're gonna take an 18mm socket and a wrench, we'll tighten that back up. Once you get that shock back in, you're gonna torque that lower bolt down to 56 foot-pounds, and then we're gonna work on getting our sway bar end links back in. So we wanna tilt that sway bar down. Get that to line up. Then we're just gonna put that factory nut back on. So we get that on. We use that 18mm socket, 19mm wrench to tighten it back up. Once you get this tight, you want to tighten that to 66 foot-pounds. And then same thing for the front. The top is going to get tightened to 66 foot-pounds. The bottom is going to get tightened to 75 foot-pounds. Then we're going to go back to the wheel well. We're going to put these brake lines back in with that factory bolt. Use a 10mm, tighten it up. Then you want to put that ABS line back in as well. Just push these back into the frame rails. All right, so one of the last things we have to do, we're going to pop our vent hose back on. Now this should be long enough still, but if you need to, you can just come up here, yank on a little bit. That's gonna pull a little extra down. Just make sure that that's not gonna pull off All right guys, so the last thing we have to do, we have to get our rear track bar installed. Now, once again, you can put your wheels and tires on, set the vehicle on the ground, that's gonna line that up, and then you can put that factory bolt back in. I'm just gonna do it in the air with a ratchet strap. So you have a very nice hole on the side of your frame rail here. I'm gonna go over to the driver's side and just hook onto this axle bracket. Once again, you don't want the strap to hit the track bar because we don't want it to push it anyway. With that, set it up. We'll start shifting this axle over. It should be relatively easy because we just put the 1-inch spacer on there. Looks like that'll do it. I'm gonna go grab that factory bolt and we'll put that back in. So you're gonna take that flag nut, put it on the back side. Once again, we wanna start that with our hand because we don't wanna cross thread anything. So once you get that started, we can tighten it up a little bit, but ideally you wanna torque it on the ground. That way, once again, the bushing is relaxed at ride height. Let's take 21 millimeter, tighten it up a little bit, and then we can release our ratchet strap. All right guys, so once you put your Jeep back together, you want to throw your wheels and tires back on it, put it on the ground, then you want to torque those wheels down to factory specs. Now, like I said, we need to torque those track bar bolts at the axle when the vehicle's on the ground. That way that bushing is in a relaxed state. So front and rear, you're going to torque that bolt down to 125 foot-pounds, and then the last thing that you need to do is take your Jeep for an alignment. After you get an alignment, drive it around for a while, recheck the torque. But however, that is going to wrap it up for my review and install. For more videos and products like this, keep it right here at extremeterrain.com.